Hello everyone, this is part 23 of What If Naruto Left Konoha and Goes to Sunagakure, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Temari finished up the story with a flourish, pointing her finger into the air. And that's what all has happened, Kira-san. The story ends with us trying to find you. Kira nodded his head resolutely, his glasses bobbing slightly as he leaned back against the boulder. You still haven't told me what exactly this alliance you want with me is. Temari took a deep breath, praying that he wouldn't break into any more bad rhymes, and coughed to get his attention. We want you to help us take out Akatsuki. We're not sure what the true goal is, only the superficial ones. We need you to help us so that those goals don't become reality. Kira snorted and put his arms behind his head. I dunno. Sounds like a marriage of convenience to me. What do I get out of this? Naruto's voice grew serious as he took a half step forward. Your life. Kira's eyes snapped over to the other Jinchuriki. Is that a threat? No, it's a fact. Akatsuki will kill you and then leave your soulless husk to rot. At least if we're together, then we have a chance to survive. I've survived so far. I doubt they even know where to look for me. Temari blinked and her lips curled into a tiny sneer. We knew how to find you. All it takes is the right person gathering information. If we can find you, they can find you. Kira grinned and sat upright on the boulder. There's a profound difference between me and other hosts though, Missy. Other hosts fight the demon. I didn't. I accepted it as part of me. Temari and Naruto were at a loss for words and Kira took that for disbelief. Don't you understand? I'm in perfect harmony with my Biju. I don't fight it, I don't insult it, I don't ignore it. I made peace with it. There is no host. There is no demon. There is only Hachi Kira. I am the Hachibi. Naruto leaned forward, awed by this. So you mean, you can control your beast? In a manner of speaking. It's more like we coexist, just to exist. Without one cog pushing the other, the clock doesn't work. We both need to turn in rhythm to keep going. Temari put a finger to her chin. Explains his love of rap and rhythm. I don't need a group to protect me. I'm perfectly fine on my own. Naruto frowned and shook his head. Let me share a little information with you. Kira leaned forward, his hands on his knees. There is a certain spider living in Suna, and the rest of the world, known as the Granddaddy Longlegs. It is a very small, unassuming spider that children play with and laugh at. It is the most poisonous spider in the world and yet, it cannot harm those bigger than it, because its mouth is too small to bite the person holding it. So, one of the most dangerous beasts in the world is helpless against those who would be victims to its mighty poison. He cast his gaze upon Kira and glared. We Jinchuriki are like this. The strong can be toppled by the weak. Humans have no natural poison, no natural defense, except for our minds. We can make conscious decisions that go beyond the natural norm. Most of the time it actually clouds our judgment, but this is one time where it shouldn't. With the spider, Kira, and the Akatsuki are the mean children who would pull off our legs. Separately, we can accomplish little, but if two of us were to band together, we could take them. After all, we hold the strongest of the Biju. Kira threw back his head and laughed long and hard. Temari grew angry when it showed no sign of stopping and slammed her hand on the rock, making an echoing sound, to stop him. What's so damn funny? We're being serious here. Kira stopped laughing and locked eyes with the blonde wind mistress. Do you really believe that tails denote how powerful these beasts are? Think about it. They're nothing more than chakra constructs. Shukaku was insane, but he could have easily been one of the most powerful Biju. His power to control sand was most formidable. There is sand everywhere, and where there isn't, it doesn't take much to make it. Other Biju have powers. What does the Kyuubi have? He looked at the two blondes as they sat in confusion, waiting for his answer. Power. Total, unrivaled power. Mastery over nothing, just enough raw power to do anything and be good at none of it. How else do you explain a disaster of nature being stopped? How many people can stop a hurricane? Or a tsunami? No one. You can't stop nature. Naruto smiled and kicked himself off the wall he'd been leaning against. How about a wager then? Since you're being contrary, and we can't go home empty-handed, I propose that we have a contest. Kira perked up immediately, as did Temari. Contest? What kind of contest? I'm going to show you that nature can be controlled. I'll show you my talent, in good faith, and you show me yours. An innate ability that you have. Show me your strength, what you're known for, and I'll show you mine. If you win, we'll leave. If I win, you come back with us. Kira nodded his head and walked towards the darker parts of the cave. Give me a moment to think about that. I'll be right back. Temari calmly walked over and grabbed Naruto by his ear, jerking it down to where she could speak in it. He protested her abuse of his poor ear and she twisted it a bit harder. What are you thinking? We want him to come with us. What if you don't win this contest? Naruto whined a little more and squinted his eyes. He wasn't coming with us otherwise. We can't force him to come. Alliances don't work like that. He needs to come willingly and this is a surefire way to get him to do it. Sanzoku, who had been knocked from his perch around Naruto's end when he was hit by Kira's punch earlier, crawled out of the shadows and up Temari's side, letting himself curl around her shoulders. Are you sure that you can win, boss? Your luck hasn't exactly been very forthcoming lately. I'm alive, aren't I? What more proof do you need? Kira chose that moment to emerge from the darkness and blinked when he saw Sanzoku. I didn't think you had a fur wrap when you came in, little lady. I'm not a wrap, you imbecile. I'm a summon. Holy S. That thing talks. He walked over and began poking Sanzoku all over, getting all manner of little grunts and growls out of the agitated red panda. Never seen a fur wrap that could talk. Or move. That's weird as hell. I'm not a fur wrap, you poor excuse for a poet. Kira's eyes narrowed and his backbone straightened. Are you dissing my rhymes? Yes. Your rhymes suck. Kira backed away and stuck his finger in Sanzoku's nose. You take that back. My rhymes are fresh and funky. They're funky fresh. They're funky because they're not fresh, you idiot. Temari listened with a smirk as the two argued, rubbing her hand along Sanzoku's back. She and the furball might not always see eye to eye, but at least he could recognize bad lyrics as well as she could. She'd have to remember to give him a treat when they got home. Kira and Sanzoku were now nose to nose and snarling at each other. Sanzoku had unwrapped himself from Temari's shoulders and had his front paws resting on her head, growling at Kira. Temari, for once, didn't mind since Sanzoku was belittling a man who annoyed her. Just admit that you're not any good at rhyming and I'll stop saying you suck. Well, you're so quick to pass judgment, why don't you bust out a rhyme, you freaking throw rug. I know I can't rap. I'm saying you shouldn't. Naruto sighed and stepped between the two. Sanzoku, be quiet. Kira, what is your decision? Sanzoku immediately clammed up with a huff and wrapped himself around Temari's shoulders as he glared at the large black man, receiving a scratch behind his ears as reward for ruffling Kira's feathers. Kira blinked and turned his head to look at Naruto. Quite a presence you got there. What's your profession? Naruto grinned and cracked his knuckles. If you come with us, I'll tell you. Now, you're SK. Kira nodded and sighed while walking toward the entrance. We're going to need to be outside for this. It's too cramped in here. He stepped outside and his hand covered his eyes immediately. Oh, hairy balls of the gods, it's bright out here. Goddamn ball of fire, circling the goddamn earth, why don't you snuff out? Naruto and Temari followed the grumbling Jinchuriki out, shielding their eyes from the brightness after being in the dark so long. Kira stretched and contorted himself before pointing at Naruto. I need your help. Come over here. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Why? Because to groove right, you gotta have a partner. Naruto blanched and took a half step back, slightly behind Temari. I don't swing that way. I'm dating her. Kira froze and turned to the blonde, his glare clearly felt through his sunglasses. Not like that, you idiot. I'm talking about my SK. Now get over here or I'm just going to go back inside and not listen to you anymore. Naruto ambled over and stood before the irritated Jinchuriki. Kira took a deep breath and settled into a fighting stance. Attack me. Naruto blinked owlishly. What? Attack me? Don't strike for earnest, you know, to K, and neither will I. I'm going to show you my skill. I promise that you'll feel the blade, but it will not cut you. I need you to set the beat so I can get my groove on. Naruto nodded once and rushed forward, jabbing out at Kira. The black man began to nod his head to an unheard beat, his shoulders bobbing, and his face set into a grin. Before Naruto could even see, the man had drawn a sword and jabbed it forward, tapping it against Naruto's cheek. The blonde leapt back as Kira's body gyrated to his own rhythm. Without warning, Kira threw the rest of his swords into the air and ran for Naruto, slashing this way and that. Naruto felt the dull edge of the sword touch him and shivered, knowing that it could just as well have shaved some skin from him. He leapt away again and watched as Kira took up a crane position and the swords dropped into place. One in each hand, one in his mouth, one in each fold of his arms, one caught and held in the fold of his uplifted right knee, and one held under his left armpit. Temari and Sanzoku watched with awe as Kira began to pinwheel around, the swords sometimes flying into the air, only to be caught on the way down as another sword began its own ascent. Naruto was kept in constant motion and Kira, the self-proclaimed Kirby, never stopped moving, always keeping in time with that unheard beat. Naruto kept moving backwards and in a circle, lest he fall off the plateau they were on. With a final lurch, Naruto was backed against the edge of the plateau and Kira was turned sideways, his glasses revealing him looking at Naruto out of the corner of his eyes. He stood in the crane stance again, all the swords pointing at Naruto. The one that had been under his left armpit was gone, but it was quickly found again as it fell from the sky and the dull edge slid down Naruto's back, landing in the rock and embedding itself. The two Suna Shinobi and Sanzoku all spoke in a hushed, awed voice. Whoa, damn, shit. Kira flipped backwards, launching all the swords into the air and then knelt down. The three were awed further as all the swords landed in their respective sheaths and Kira stood upright again, a smug grin on his face. I didn't think springing my biju on you would be a fair thing, since we can both do that to an extent. My art of the sword is unbeatable and, if I may say so, pretty damn impressive. That was just my warm-up dance. The true tango is much more sly and much. The three leaned in, waiting for what he was about to say. More see. It's all in the SK, sucker, cause I'm a righteous, bad motherfu. Temari and Sanzoku stepped forward, growling as one. You finish that horrible lyric and I'll bash your head in. What she doesn't bash, I'll bite. Kira looked at the ground deflated, mumbling to himself. No one appreciates good rhymes. He bounced back quickly, though, and pointed his finger at Naruto. Beat that, boy. Unless you can really harness nature like you said, you ain't got nothing. I know about your Rasengan. That doesn't count. Naruto looked around at the rocky terrain and then to Temari and Sanzoku. Both gave him a wry grin. He turned back to Kira and smirked. Tell me, Hachi Kira, can plant life grow up here on the mountain? Kira was taken aback by this and seed his eyebrow quizzically. Not much. Some wild brush, but nothing else. Why? Naruto didn't answer and instead held his hand out in front of him. Kira's eyes went wide when Naruto's staff erupted from the stone and leapt into his hand. He quickly schooled his features back to indifference. If that was your technique, it was a cool trick, but nothing special. That wasn't my ability. Kira turned his head to the side slightly, his lips in a thin line. Then what is? Naruto's answer was to chuckle and close his eyes as a thin green aura began to envelop his body. Kira sighed as they walked along the road back to Konoha, his hands firmly implanted in his pockets. I can't believe I was outdone by a schoolteacher. A Chunin schoolteacher, no less. Man, that sucks. Temari giggled from her spot beside the man and he threw a hateful glare at her. What the hell are you laughing at? Temari smiled at the man, her spirit high. They had succeeded in their mission and once they'd checked in with the Hokage, they'd be able to go home. She hadn't felt this good in a while. Oh, nothing. I just think that you'll like getting out and about. You've been on that mountain for quite a while from what you've told us. It'll do you good to see some new places. I happen to like my privacy, little lady. Besides, you'd be surprised what I can hear up on that mountaintop. I hear all kinds of things. Temari leaned forward, suddenly interested. Oh, like what? I've heard all about your boyfriend and his vendetta against the Akatsuki and the Uchiha brothers. The news that carries on the wind is somewhat old, but I do learn of the outside world. It keeps me sane. He sighed and kicked a stone out of his path. Naruto and Temari were both listening intently now while Sanzoku slept. I wasn't one of the Jinchuriki who was abused, or threatened, or anything of that sort. I was ignored to the fullest, sent up to that fake shrine, and left. Someone would bring me some food every now and then, but I quickly learned that they didn't want to speak to me. I was to be taught swordsmanship and the abilities of the ninja. That was all. Nothing more, nothing less. I was to be their trump card, their ace in the hole, their secret weapon. They sent the best swordsmen of Kumo to teach me how to handle blades. Soon, there was nothing else they could teach me. I was the best. So, they sent the best ninjutsu masters to teach me how to handle my element, Raiten. Soon, there was also nothing left to teach me in that respect and I was alone again. Then, it spoke to me. It tried to take over my body, but I would not cave. I tried to force it into submission, but it would not submit. After many years, we came to a conclusion. We were both stuck together, forever, and there was nothing we could do about it. So, we agreed to bond. Naruto perked up and his ears twitched in anticipation. Bond. Kira nodded and turned his attention back to the road. Yeah, bond. He would give me his power and I would give him mine. Essentially, there is no Hachibi anymore and there is no Kira. So, we became Hachi Kira, an amalgamation of the best of both. His power and my slick rhymes. Temari sighed and readjusted her fan since it was digging into her back. I don't know about the slick rhymes, but your life has been typical of a Jinchuriki. Loneliness, fear, hatred, these all seem to be commonplace things. My brother had it worst, I think. Our own father kept trying to have him assassinated. Kira nodded his head and pushed his glasses back up on his nose. The host of Shukaku. I've heard that his Biju no longer inhabits his body. How is that possible? Naruto watched a civilian couple pass them by and then turned to Kira again. The woman who originally sealed Shukaku into him SD her life with a rebirth jutsu so that he could live again. Now he has the power over sand, but Shukaku isn't tormenting him anymore. Kira nodded and the three walked on in silence for quite a while. As they neared a town and dark began to settle, Kira looked up at the appearing moon and smiled sadly. I don't know what I'd do if I were to suddenly find myself without my Biju. It's been with me all my life. When I was lonely, at least I knew it was there. Despite the hardships it has brought upon me, it has given me other comforts. He turned to Naruto once more. What would you feel if you woke up tomorrow and the Kyuubi was gone? Temari and a now awake Sanzoku listened intently as Naruto stared straight ahead. I wouldn't know what to do. The Biju can't just disappear from the world, so that would mean that he's loose. I wouldn't ever let that happen. He cast his gaze upon the rest of his group, his face grim. I wouldn't wish this curse on anyone else. I'm not sure anyone else could handle it. I wouldn't even wish the Kyuubi on another Jinchuriki. Kira smiled and winced at the loudness of the town. He was going to hate this, he could tell. Sleep would not be forthcoming. I see we're of like minds then. These things are both a curse and a blessing, making us neither angel nor demon. We are something else entirely. Temari wrapped her arm around Naruto's and squeezed it. You're both human. You're humans with a burden that none of the rest of us could shoulder. That's what makes you strong. Naruto smiled down at her and squeezed her arm. Kira looked on with a smirk at the happy couple. See what I gotta put up with all the time. If you think that's disgusting, then by all means, live by yourself for your whole life. Seeing that just gives me hope that someone will shower me with affection someday. Of course, they have to love me and my dope rap. 'Cause Kira is a party that's always on tap. People hear my flow and all come on the run. Wherever the Kirby's standing is the spot with all the fun. Temari palmed her face, mostly to hide the embarrassment since they had just entered the town and people were beginning to stare. Please, someone, anyone shut him up. Naruto just laughed and kissed her cheek. Tsunade sat at her desk, pondering on whether or not to risk taking a sip of sake, when she heard a familiar voice outside her door. I don't care what her schedule says. You open that damn door or I'll kick it in. Her secretary, a Chunin who was only recently promoted, sounded very angry. And I don't care who you think you are. You two are soon a shinobi and he's a shinobi of Kumo. I don't know who you think you are, but you aren't getting in without an appointment. Tsunade was just about to get up and let the Chunin know who was at the door, when the door to her office warped and bent suddenly before tearing off her hinges and flying right for her. Tsunade watched it come and flung her hand out, knocking the heavy oaken door aside and through the window, where it landed with a boom on the street below, sending bystanders scattering. She smirked when she saw what was on the other side of the door. Naruto stood sideways in the doorway with his hand outstretched, the remainders of the chakra from the Rasengan still wisping around his hands, as the Chunin stood gape-mouthed. You owe me a door, Naruto. Temari shook her head in exasperation and muscled her way around Naruto, dragging Kira with her. Tsunade raised an eyebrow as she looked the well-muscled man up and down. Kira caught that Tsunade was appraising him and grinned at her, waggling his eyebrows. So, you checking out ol' Hachi Kira, huh? Well, Hachi Kira only has one question for you, beautiful. Temari grimaced and held her breath. She prayed he wasn't about to look foolish in front of the Hokage. Do I make you randy? Dandy. Hope you got a sweet tooth, cause I'm sweet like. Temari clapped a hand over his mouth as Tsunade's eyes grew wide. Kira glared at Temari for ruining his flow and slowly closed his mouth. Tsunade regained her composure and leaned forward. What the hell was that? It's the way Kira talks. He has an affinity for rhyming in his speech. Tsunade looked at Naruto out of the corner of her eyes and then back to Kira. Please refrain from speaking like that in my presence. It's annoying. Kira sighed and hung his head in defeat. Nobody appreciates my rhymes. Naruto patted Kira on the back, consoling him, while Temari shook her head and addressed the Hokage. Tsunade-sama, this is Hachi Kira, the host of the eight-tailed beast. He's agreed. I was suckered. Temari sighed and continued on. Agreed to help us. At least, he's agreed to come to Suna with us. We'll figure out more there. Tsunade nodded her head and stood. Well then, I welcome you, Hachi Kira, to Konohagakure no Sato. How long will you be staying before returning to Suna, you three? One night. No need to alert Hinata. We'll just get hotel rooms tonight. We've been away from home for too long. Tsunade winced and averted her eyes to Naruto for a moment. He simply stared ahead, not seeming to care. A small, wistful sigh escaped her lips, which Kira caught. His eyes darted from one blonde to the next, storing that information in his head to ask later. Tsunade nodded her head and walked around the desk, enveloping Naruto in a hug. Come see us again later, brat. You don't have to be a stranger just because you live in Suna. Naruto hugged her back and let go, his arms falling to his side. His eyes locked with Kira's suspicious ones for a moment as he led the way to the door and held it open for the others. Let's get lunch, huh? I'm starving. Naruto felt small all through lunch as Kira looked at him with new intensity. It seemed he had suddenly become a puzzle to his new ally that the man couldn't figure out. As they checked into their hotel, Kira grabbed Naruto before he could follow Temari into their room. She turned around, giving him a curious look, as he waved at her. I need to borrow your boyfriend for a minute. I'll give him back in a moment. Temari watched as the door was slammed in her face and turned to a bewildered Sanzoku, who sat on the bed. What was all that about? I dunno. That guy is weird as hell. I don't try to understand him. I agree. Kira folded his arms and leaned against the wall, observing Naruto as he sat on the edge of the bed. What's this all about, boy? That cutie seemed to know you intimately. I thought you were a Suna shinobi. Naruto sighed and leaned his forearms on his knees, staring at the floor. I used to be a Konoha shinobi. Kira's blinked and shook his head. What? Are you a missing nin? Naruto chuckled. No, nothing like that. I asked for a transfer. You see, I had some grievances against the Council of Konoha that couldn't be ironed out, so I asked to leave. The Kazekage is a friend of mine, so it wasn't all that hard. Kira's eyes hardened and he glared at Naruto. Who are you really? I know you're a Jinchuriki, I know what you hold. But, who are you? You're obviously an important person. Naruto sat silent for a few moments before locking eyes with his new ally. I'm the self-disowned son of the Yondaime Hokage. My name at birth should have been Namikaze Naruto, but I refuse to go by it. Instead, I was given my mother's maiden name and it's what I go by to this day. Kira whistled appreciatively. The son of a Kage, huh? That's a hell of a pedigree, kid. Yeah, it is, but I didn't live up to it earlier on. I wasn't the most well-liked person. No one truly wanted anything to do with me. Unlike you, who was raised to be a weapon and taught how to defend yourself, my village left me hanging out to dry. Kira perked up at that. You mean, they didn't train you to be a weapon? Naruto shook his head. Nope. Unlike most Jinchuriki, I think they honestly wanted me to If I had any any way to protect myself, that would mean that the Kyuubi could live on another day. But, you're Mokuton. It's not Mokuton. It's a force of nature that only I can control. I have complete power over plants. I can make them grow anywhere and I can grow anything. It was a power I was appointed with, unlike the Kyuubi. I was chosen for the green. But what is it? It was an awesome power and I felt little to no chakra in it. That's because it is nature. I'm not creating jutsu, I'm creating life. You should see what I've done with Suna. Kira nodded his head and the room fell silent again until he spoke up once more. Even with a different background, even if we weren't all treated the same, it all comes back to one unforgivable truth. He and Naruto looked at each other with understanding. No one wanted us. Kira nodded his head and looked out the window. Yeah, no one wanted us. The two fell silent again, listening to the birds outside the window as they chirped merrily. You can go back to your woman now, Naruto. I just wanted to know. Naruto nodded, but didn't move. You know, Kira, you can stay in Suna with us. Once this is over, you don't have to go back to that shrine. Kira eyed him suspiciously as Naruto grinned at him. If you like caves so much, there's a cave on my property. I'm sure the raccoons wouldn't mind sharing it with such an awesome dude as yourself. Kira chuckled at that and sighed. Maybe. We'll have to see what happens. Our future isn't looking very bright right now. I know a girl who would love a guy like you. Open, honest, muscular, talented with his mouth, so to speak. Kira quirked an eyebrow and grinned lecherously. Oh yeah, what's her name? Naruto grinned devilishly and drew the woman's outline in the air. Urameshi Kari. Kari and Kira, I like that. It's easy talking to another Jinchuriki, isn't it? Like talking to someone you've known your whole life. Now, tell me a little more about this Kari. Temari looked up from her book when Naruto walked in, Sanzoku curled up beside her, snoring away. Hey, babe, what was that all about? Kira wanted to know who I was. He leapt onto the bed, landing hard, and sending Sanzoku flying into the air. The red panda snarled and launched at Naruto, who caught him by the nape of his narrowly avoiding his claws, and held him at arm's length until Sanzoku calmed down. Temari giggled as he gave the summon a stern stare. Are you gonna be good now? Yeah. Naruto sat him down beside him and Sanzoku curled up on his pillow, growling softly at the blonde man. Temai snuggled into his side and went back to reading her book as he wrapped an arm around her. What you reading? Oh, a book on cooking. I figure if we live together I can't let you cook all the meals. Tima-chan. Remember the last time you cooked? It tried to come to life. Gaara had to K it with his sand. We ate out that night. It wasn't that bad. Temari. It growled at Kankuro. Everything growls at Kankuro. It tried to bite Gaara. Lots of things dislike Gaara. It bit me. You probably deserved it. Naruto sighed and took the book out of her hands, holding it over his head as she reached for it. Hey, gimme that back. No, leave the cooking to me. Temari folded her arms and leaned back against the headboard. Then what am I supposed to do around the house? Naruto grinned and kissed her on the lips. Look pretty. Temari grinned into the kiss and caressed his cheek with her left hand. I guess I can handle that. Trying to sleep here. Then go sleep with Kira. I'm sure he isn't making any noise. I'll just go sleep in the bathroom. Temari giggled as he shut the door behind him and turned back to Naruto. Now, where were we? The trip to Suna was not a fun one. Kira grumbled the whole way, complaining about the heat as they crossed the desert and the overall brightness of the sun. Temari was quickly losing her patience and Naruto, he just wanted to be at home and away from at least one grumpy person. He knew he could calm Temari down at least. Temari was just about on her last nerve when they topped a dune and she cried out in happiness. There it is, Sunagakure. Home. Kira squinted his eyes and shielded them from the sun with his hand, looking out over the shimmering sand. Well I'll be damned. There really are trees inside the walls. And grass growing around the walls themselves. I gotta see this. Temari grinned and took off again, calling over her shoulder. Wait till you see the property. Unfortunately, such pleasantries had to wait as they had to report into Gaara. The three stood before the redhead as he eyed them all. I don't believe there has ever been a gathering of more than 2 Jinchuriki in any such manner. This is a momentous occasion. Kira dug in his ear boredly. Yeah huh. Where's the nearest bar so I can get a drink? I'm parched. Gaara snorted and a small smile crossed his face. You're just like Naruto, always worried about your next meal instead of what's important. You three go rest and see me in the morning. We'll do this then. Naruto, Temari. The two turned in the doorway and Gaara closed his eyes as he nodded his head toward them. Welcome home. We all missed you. The two blondes grinned and led Kira out. Where are we going? My property. You'll love it. He did love it. Temari and Naruto watched as Kira bounded around the place like a little kid, sampling all the fruits and drinking from the stream. He finally ran back over, his face set in a wide grin. Show me where I'll be sleeping tonight. Temari seed her head to the side. Are you sure you'd rather not sleep at a hotel? We can arrange accommodations. Kira shook his head and Naruto led him to the cave. Wait here. I'll need to ask the caretakers if they will let you stay. He didn't wait for their answer and walked inside into the main chamber and knelt on his knees, a feeling of calmness and peace washing over him. Caretakers, I've come to ask a favor. 2 raccoons, slightly above the average size, waddled out of the shadows, gold and blue vests adorning their boss. The female of the two sat on her haunches and clasped her paws together. What do you need, Naruto-sama? Ask, and we shall try to grant it. I need you to let a new friend of mine stay here. He is a Jinchuriki as well and is used to living in caves. I thought he would be more comfortable here. The male nodded his head and clasped his paws together as well. Bring him here, that we may see him and determine his intent. Naruto nodded and rose, walking back to the entrance and motioning for Kira to follow him. Temari was miffed that she had to stay put, but her mood lightened when the kids came out to play with her. Kira followed Naruto into the chamber and knelt beside Naruto. He felt a sense of calm wash over him and closed his eyes. This room, it's mystic, isn't it? Yes, it is. Welcome, Hachi Kira. Please remain still so that we may determine if you can stay. Kira sat motionless, his eyes closed, and allowed the 2 raccoons to pull his arms away from his body until he sat as if receiving a blessing. The male raccoon nodded to the female and they arranged Kira's limbs back to their former state. He is not the purest being in the world, but we will allow him to stay. Perhaps while he stays here, he can find peace with himself. He may stay in the main chamber. The kits will see to it that he isn't lonely. Kira nodded his consent and was about to rise when the female raccoon pulled on his hand. Stay. Let the energies flow over you. By morning, I promise, you'll feel right as rain. Kira bowed his head to the raccoons and spoke to Naruto as he settled into a lotus position. I shall see you in the morning. I feel like I can almost touch heaven here. Naruto chuckled and rose to his feet, bowing to the raccoons. Thank you, caretakers. I'll bring you something good to eat on my next trip to the sea. Thank you, Naruto-sama. We appreciate it as always. Carry on in your mission. Do not falter. He nodded and walked out, casting one look back at the prone Kira, who sat as unmoving as a statue. The kits squealed happily when they saw him and Temari stood, the one who liked her hair, or was it a different one? She couldn't tell since they all looked the same, planted firmly atop her head. Naruto leaned forward and kissed her. Come on, let's go home. We have a lot to do tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Well, we have to talk to Gaara, get Kira settled, and then, we start on the house. It's the start of a new day, Temari. She smiled and locked her arm in his as they walked toward the village. The sun was setting and cast its purple and gold and orange and yellow hues beautifully on the horizon. Sunrise, sunset, will they always begin and end with such beautiful colors? He gave her a loving smile and squeezed her arm. As long as you're with me, every day will be beautiful. She smacked his arm playfully. Flatterer. It won't get you anywhere. But, it is nice to hear. I believe it's already gotten me somewhere, my dear. Oh, and where is that? Your heart. She snorted and wiped a tear from her eye, From laughter at his absurdness or the touching things he was saying, he couldn't tell. Idiot. I fell for you because you were like a little puppy. I just couldn't kick you away. And now, she grinned evilly. Well, now I have the puppy on a leash and he'll do whatever I tell him. Why let go of such an obedient pet now? They both laughed and walked onward toward the compound until Temari spoke up again, humor in her voice. You know, a leash sounds. Don't even think about it. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.